I love it when my clients say, God, I hate therapy, right? Because it's like they've reached that moment of like they
They're
can't
like,
they
God
can't
damn it.
they can't go back, right? Like they can't unknow now what they
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
And so,
Yeah.
they'll be like, oh God, I hate this, or oh, I didn't think that
That's so
that's where
true,
this
isn't
art
it?
piece
Yeah.
was going to go, or oh
Yeah.
man, that was not my intention today to talk about X, Y, and Z. I really wanted
Yeah.
to talk about ABC, but the art doesn't lie.
No, it
Whatever
doesn't.
the art is, if it's movement or song or banging a wooden spoon against a pot, like
Mm-hmm.
it's unexpected. And I
Totally.
think that's what I love about it the most
Mm-hmm.
is
Mm-hmm.
that. Okay, so what happens after two expressive art therapists for parents get together for the first time in real time after having a parasocial relationship for years? Well, we forget to introduce ourselves. So, I'm Kayla Huszar, the host of the Chill Like a Mother podcast, and I am here with Catherine, a prolific expressive arts therapist and artist, and you are going to get an unencumbered, uncensored, totally raw conversation about motherhood, art, creativity, its wonderfulness, its applications, its uses, its magic, its glimmers, its potential, and you're going to want to listen right to the end. Though I warn you, I do leave you on a bit of a cliffhanger because I normally try to keep these episodes under 30 minutes because I know you're a mom and you've got shit to do and you've got about 15 to 20 minutes to start and finish a podcast episode. So I have broken this episode into two. So if you're listening to this at the time of its recording, you're going to be left on a cliffhanger and you're going to have to wait till next week to listen. Or if you're binging the content right now, you're going to already have access to both. Happy listening.
It tells
It's
the truth of what's
it tells the
important in
truth.
that moment. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And you make the meaning. You as the client make the
Yes.
meaning or tell the story or attune to the feeling or are curious about the beginning, the middle, or the end. And
Yeah.
I'm not telling you that you
No.
need, okay, this is your problem. And okay, so go meditate for 20 minutes a day or run
Mhm.
or like it's not this prescribed
No.
self-care
No.
as Olivia so
Yes.
kindly coined in her
Oh,
book
yes. Yeah.
Impossible Parenting. Like there are moments for sure where I make suggestions to people when they feel stuck and lost and they don't
Yeah.
know where to start. It's like, I don't know, maybe play with some meditation this week. Maybe play with going for a walk in the forest. Maybe
Mhm.
be curious about drinking more water. I don't know.
Totally.
But like it's not me giving
If you
you
don't do
the
it, you
six
weren't meant to
steps.
do it. Yeah.
Like
Like
I
if
hate
you
yoga.
don't do it, it means there was nothing there for you that felt true in that moment. That doesn't mean that you like failed at doing your therapy homework. And then that is like the start of a discussion, when clients are just like, oh, like you told me to maybe try doing this and I didn't. And it's like, okay, so there's where we start. Because
Yes.
I didn't tell you you had to.
Mhm.
It
It
was
was
just a
an option. Like
suggestion.
you have autonomy still in
Yes. Yeah.
executing that
Yeah.
task.
But now I see that offering a suggestion for you means a task. So let's talk about task. Like, let's just talk about the word task.
Yes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Totally. There's a
Yes.
potential for something. And even when I'm having days where I just like radically accept that I cannot lean towards the potential because I'm exhausted or I'm just done or I'm stuck or I'm in like dysregulation, sensory overload, I still know that it's there. It's like I have a trusting knowledge that like a glimmer is available. I just have to be ready for it. And it's okay not to be ready for it too.
Yes. Or it's okay to like not want the glimmer right now. Like
Yes.
I
Yeah,
just,
right now it's just like I can't.
yeah.
Like I thank you very much, Glimmer, but like I'm over here. I'm just gonna be bitchy and sad for a couple days because I need to be. And like I know you're available and
Yes.
I'm grateful for you.
And I'll circle back. I'll circle
I'll
back when
circle
I'm
back.
ready.
I'll circle back. Just stay there. Like it's a really interesting I feel like it has taught me to trust things more. And I'm not somebody who, like, because of my own historical trauma and like a lot of relational dynamics growing up, like I don't trust people. I just don't trust. And I think this assumption that we're all just supposed to trust everything all the time is also just, you could have a whole podcast on that.
Yes.
But I don't very easily trust people. I'm a very skeptical person. I'm always bracing. I'm always, and you and I share an experience of having experienced and lived with OCD. And so you don't trust people.
No. And sometimes you
But
don't trust yourself
oh
because you're
yeah,
not
most of the time you don't.
sure
Yeah,
like
yeah, yeah. You're
where,
doubting yourself all the
yeah.
time. Yeah. Yeah. And so that like the one thing that what it has taught me is that the one thing I can trust is that there's always potential. There's always potential for something. Even if it's like the tiniest thing. It's like there's potential to go get a donut today.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like it can be so tiny. And that has fundamentally changed my life and like the way and the way that I parent too, or just not even the way I parent because I did my training before being a parent, but then becoming a parent, I was just like, holy shit, I'm really glad I went to expressive arts therapy training school
Oh my
because
gosh.
I
Yes.
need that so much right now in terms of how I'm like looking at my kids and embracing this really difficult transformation in my life. Because I need to also be able to offer them a sense that like there's always a possibility. There's always the
Always.
potential for something. And I have two kids who have very stuck brains like I do. So yeah. Yeah, the glimmer, the glimmer.
The thing that has been most profound for me,
Mm-hmm.
having gone through my training when my child was a toddler,
Mm-hmm.
is that I went through this like perinatal OCD anxiety with like threads of OCD from like a long time ago. I just didn't know to name it that
Yeah.
until I knew to name it that and I knew how to recognize it.
Mm-hmm.
And at 2 years postpartum, I went to the 10-day training and left drove 1,200 kilometers away from my family and left for 10 days.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like my brain could now function in an entirely different way because
Mm-hmm.
of the expressive arts. Like when I came home from that training, my husband was like, you are completely different. And like
Mm-hmm.
not in a bad way, like in a,
Yeah.
I tell everybody who will listen to it that the expressive arts healed my perinatal anxiety and OCD. It didn't make it go away. It's still back
Yeah.
here, right?
Yeah.
Because it's patterns, it's neurons, it's pathways that have already been
Yeah.
formed
Yeah.
and at a very critical, sensitive time.
Mm-hmm.
And but it absolutely transformed the way that I respond to myself, the way that I show up in the world,
Mm-hmm.
the way that I parent.
Mm-hmm.
Um, there's a lot of information out there right now around like attachment, gentle, responsive,
Mm-hmm.
whatever parenting style.
Mm-hmm.
And while I think that parents are doing an amazing job, I also think that with the help of the expressive arts, I'm able to sift through all of that and really understand how I want to show up. Not how the books tell me to show up, not
Yeah.
how
Yeah.
Instagram tells me I need to show up or repair
Mm-hmm.
or whatever, which is all really great skills. I will always circle back to
Mm-hmm.
that glimmer, that knowing that
Mm-hmm.
there's always possibility in this, even when I think I have fucked it up
Yeah.
so horribly bad, when I have
Yeah.
been
Yeah.
so dysregulated that I can look at my kids and see that I have scared them or I have
Yes.
crossed the
Yeah.
line or I have said and did the thing that I promised myself I wouldn't do. Even then, when I can go to therapy, especially expressive art therapy, if I can
Mm-hmm.
be on the receiving end of that, if I can
Mm-hmm.
facilitate it for myself, because now I'm pretty skilled at like getting myself in the zone and finding the
Self-facilitating.
moment and
Yep.
self witnessing the process.
Yep.
It always comes back to that like there's
Mm-hmm.
potential, there's possibility, there's curiosity.
Mm-hmm. And that I can be surprised here. Like
Yeah.
even if it's hell, like even if you're going through hell, you can there you still have the ability to potentially be surprised in
Mhm.
that by something, right?
Yeah.
It's like when I'm having a horrible, horrible day, or um like recently I've been grieving a lot because I had like loss of a family member and just like lots of loss. And my kids will surprise me in that, where I'm just like, the world just seems like a totally dark cloud. And then like suddenly one of my kids will just come and be like, Mama. And I'm like, yeah. And they'll just like hug me,
Yeah.
you know? So yeah, surprise too, that everything can hold a potential surprise or something unexpected, or yeah, I feel like it's increased the malleability of my brain.
Oh, yes. Which,
And
like,
like not in that toxic positivity way. Like I
no.
totally don't believe that everything's beautiful. Like the world is
Mm-mm.
not a beautiful place right now. Like let's admit that. The world is an atrocious, fairly ugly, pretty harmful place to a lot of people right now. And I say that sitting in an incredible amount of privilege at being like a white person, female presenting. Like the world is a really hard place to be in right now for a lot of people.
Yeah.
Um, and even in that, we can figure out a way to be surprised by something or like find the potential, which sort of makes me realize, and I've been having conversations with other expressive arts therapists about this recently, is that I think we have also forgotten as a society, like where art came from, in the sense that art
Mm.
came from a place of communicating existence and of mobilizing. Like that's actually where the act of art came from. It came from like a place of it came from a place of activism in really many, many ways. It was like, don't forget we exist. When we think about like the cave drawings and things like that, but also this place of like something is up and we all need to come together and we need to figure out a way to get our resistance or our message across in a way that will be accepted. And a lot of that was through art, right? So that's I've just been thinking about that a lot more in terms of the way that we perceive art in the world right now, in terms of this very colonial perspective of like we have art galleries and there's people who are
Yeah.
professional and there's people who are not professional and there's people whose work is worth something and others who aren't. Like
Yeah.
that whole kind of experience exists in the world of art, but it's its own world. It's not the whole of the world of why art exists
Yes.
for us right now. And that sort of just brings it back to like individual drive to be seen
Yeah.
is really what's at the heart of art making in general. And I think for expressive arts therapists, it's like for us to be able to say to our clients, like, let's figure out a way that you can see yourself in like in a way that's different than the way that you came here seeing yourself. Because, you know, they come to us because they're not feeling well. Like clients come to us because they're feeling atrocious or stuck or really struggling. Yeah, so it's like being able to offer people this little piece of their own like self activist experience to be like, oh, wait, like I'm actually a really beautiful person and um, I'm valuable to this world by
Mm.
my existence. Yeah. And I think for parents in particular, we need to feel that right now because we don't feel valuable to society most of the time. We feel like our job is to produce children who will feed the economy in the future. Like we're not valued in that as like this massive, massively difficult act of raising another human being. So I think parents in particular just really need to feel like they have a place where they can see themselves again.
Mm.
Um, and feel like they're important people because we certainly don't treat them like they're very important. Or I mean, we sort of cloud it. We're like, yes, you're important, but it's like, okay, can you get back to work now because our economy is failing? Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah.
How do you frame your practice
Mm.
around like the idea of curiosity for parents?
Mm. I mean, I think I frame it in the sense that I will always be curious. Like I think I frame it in the sense that I model it. because when you're stuck, it's really hard to be curious, right? When you're feeling like crap. So I think that's what I've discovered is that as long as I can model curiosity to my clients and become very curious, not even just about their stories, but like sometimes I'll just be really curious about like their shoes or like a pin on their backpack. Like as much as I can model curiosity, I feel like then you're just providing a curious environment and then they can sort of ease into the comfort of being in a curious environment and realize like, oh, it's okay for me to go off on a tangent and get curious about the like chalk thing you have on your wall or like what's over there or what's that thing on the shelf or yeah. So I think I frame it in that I model it and I just try to be a very curious therapist so that other people can also start to get more curious in the process and start to like open up those muscles.
Mhm.
Of like, oh, what is this? Instead of like, tell me what this is. Which is also where expressive arts came from, right? It's moving away from
Yes.
that psychoanalysis of just like, I'm going to a professional and I'm going to draw something and they're going to tell me what it means because I will have drawn someone without feet and that has to mean something. And moving away from that psychoanalysis and just being like, huh, if
It's
you
really
didn't
curious.
if you didn't have feet, what would that feel like? You know?
Yeah.
So yeah, and I think I think therapy in general is moving away from that in terms of people feeling like they need to be diagnosed or prescribed or
Mhm.
defined as like here's what's wrong with you. Um, Thankfully is moving to this more malleable space of just like what do you need from this and how can I help you uh figure that out and like get curious about how we can do that together. Yeah, because sometimes people will, I mean, I'm sure you have this all the time where clients come with a goal, and of
Yeah.
course you want to like try to
Honor
achieve
that
that
goal.
goal,
Yes.
but how you get to that goal can look like a million different ways. And then I love when clients are just like, oh, wait, I actually did hit that goal, but like I didn't think any of this would be a part of that. And it's like, yeah, surprise.
Yay.
We got there, you know? Yeah. Yeah.
Yes. I was working with a client the other day and we just hit this like stuck point in the middle of the session.
Mm.
And I just said, how would you like me to show up for you in
Mm-hmm.
this moment? And she,
Mm-hmm.
like, I could see her like on Zoom do one of these. Like,
Mm.
I, I actually don't know. And then it was
Yeah.
like, okay, so
Yeah.
let's get into the metaphor of what that might mean, because essentially
Mhm.
just like really get granular with it. I just asked you what you needed.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
if you don't know what
I
you
just
need,
offered to fulfill a
like,
need for you. Yeah.
and if we
And
can't name
yeah.
a need,
Hmm.
then let's get curious about like
Totally.
what's underneath that. Like what are the
Yeah.
roots of that? Because
Yeah. Like you just froze up and backed away from somebody offering to fulfill a need for you. That's interesting.
right? And so it's like all kinds of
Not just like
curiosity,
that means that you have this attachment style and that thing
right?
and this must be a part of your history. It's like, well, that's interesting. Can we get you to feel safe? Like,
Like
how far
what,
away from me do you need to be right now to have
right?
this conversation? Do you want
Like,
to like back all the way up?
do you need me to
Are
back up? Like, do you
do you
need
need me to
me?
back up? Yeah. Like, can we talk about this? But like, tell me how far you need me to be to talk about this with you, right? Like, if
Yeah.
I'm across the room, can we talk about it? Or do you want it? Or do you have the urge for us to stay close? Which means, like, what can we talk about in this
Yes.
that
Like
allows
tell
us
me
to
what's okay and
stay
what's
close
not okay.
together? Yeah. Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Totally. And that's the
So,
play,
and
right? Like, that's
that's
the
the
play.
curiosity. That's the
Yeah.
attunement that can happen even over Zoom. Oh,
Hmm.
okay, I just noticed you like deer in the headlights,
Yeah.
back up.
Hmm.
Okay, let's
Hmm.
name that. Let's acknowledge that. And you
Hmm.
can just ease into it. You can be curious about where your body needs to be, where my body
Hmm.
needs to be.
Hmm.
Do we need to add in an art medium?
Yeah, like, do you need me to like be
Yep.
like in half of my screen to have this conversation.
Do you need to like run to your kid's room and get their favorite stuffed animal and just like pet it for a
Yeah,
moment?
totally,
Like,
totally.
let's
Yeah.
let's figure like if you want to, let's
Yeah.
figure this out. If you don't want to figure it out, you just
If you
want to pretend it
don't.
didn't happen, we can also do
Yeah.
that.
And then as a therapist, you're like, note to self.
Note to self. Yeah.
See if this comes back. Not like come back to this. I say that often in my notes where instead of saying come back to this, I say see if this comes back. Because it's like you can't force something to come back, right? Like that's just kind of harming someone. But so I'll usually say like see if this comes back because then I can like be like, oh, it did come back. Like, did you notice that that came back? Okay, we're not quite there yet to have this conversation, but it came back. Yeah, but it is totally fun because people don't really, I mean, I think unless you and I will also sort of fully divulge, like I haven't been to classic psychotherapy training because my training is in expressive arts therapy. So even just that can be really surprising to clients sometimes where you're like, they're like, oh, like you'll literally turn your back to me. And I'm like, yeah, like why wouldn't I? That's what would create safety for you right now. Or people like turning off their cameras. I have a lot of clients that have sort of been dancing, pun intended, towards like exploring potential movement stuff. Because as you know, expressive arts therapy is intermodal, it's not just visual. And you can see this like draw towards it because you can see them starting to make movements just as they're talking. And it's amazing when I'm like, what if you turned off your camera? Like if you turned off your camera, would you be able to go explore this and then come back and turn your camera back on when you're ready? And so like offering that, like I can turn my camera off, you can turn your camera off. Do you want to be muted or not? And very often I will have clients when they're first stepping into that like embodiment, more like somatic movement stuff or noise stuff, like vocalization, sound play, volume play, intonation play. They will turn off their cameras, turn off their microphones. And then it will become this structure of like, okay, so you go, you come back, you report to me what happened, and then we'll figure out if you want to do it again and like where you want to go with it next time. And then it's like, okay, take two, turn off your camera and your microphone, go do the thing, come back, let's see where you are, right? And like in expressive arts therapy language, that would be like goal oriented or like take play. But again, like that's not something that people are super familiar with. So it can be surprising when you're like, I don't need to watch you. I don't need to witness you in this. Like maybe eventually you'll feel okay with that, but it's totally fine for you to be a black box for 2 minutes while you go explore the thing that feels really important and then come back to me and tell me what feels okay sharing and like where you want to go with that. And that can be really surprising to people because they're like, but aren't I supposed to be comfortable with bearing my soul to you? It's like, no. No, you don't actually need to be comfortable bearing your soul to me. That actually probably, like, to me, even that sounds scary to like bear my soul to someone. But we have this expectation that like we're all supposed to just crack ourselves wide open and, you know, be okay with anything. And that's kind of what toxic positivity has taught us. It's like, everything's going to work out. You can trust anyone. And it's like, no, you can't. No, you can't. Like, that's just creating like a recipe for harm and trauma for people. So yeah, I just like having fun with it that way. And virtually, I've learned so much. At the beginning of the pandemic, I was like, yeah, I can't really do expressive arts therapy virtually. And then it just got to the point where the pandemic wasn't ending. And I was like, why am I saying that to myself? Like, why am I telling myself that you can't do expressive arts therapy virtually? And then went through the phase where I was like, oh, I can send people art kits or I can like tell them what materials to get. And that phase sort of lasted for a while. But then I found the people I was working with online that I was sending art kits to, we were barely using the art kits because something else was pulling them more than that. And it might have just like you said, you go get a stuffy from your kid's room or whatever. And so it's just, the pandemic actually offered me this really profound, like, skill development opportunity as an expressive arts therapist, of like busting open what I even thought expressive arts therapy was, and how you can provide that to other people. Like, it has to be in the room, and you're going to have art materials, and there's going to be all these things that are happening, and I'm going to be able to witness you. It's like, none of that is true, and none of that is required to be able to offer expressive arts therapy to people. And that's been really, I'm very thankful for that learning, because I feel like it's made me the kind of practitioner that I want to be, even though I didn't know that at the beginning. Yeah. So I love working virtually with people now, because I'm just like, oh, there's so much fun we can have. And you have your whole house.
And you have like your
as a
whole,
space.
like your space.
You have your
Yeah.
whole space as the potential for a material. Like, you have your entire house. Like, you can go to your room and get a blanket if you want, which I don't have in my office. Or like, you can go to the kitchen and grab a pot if you want to. Like, this whole window has opened for you to have access to materials, and then for clients to be able to see their homes in a different way and see their domestic environments as something different than just a construct of domesticity that they have to clean, that they have to organize, and that they have to parent in. It actually then becomes like a play space, instead of just this box that keeps you locked in your role of parent, domestic, partner, all that stuff, all that shit that we tell ourselves. Yeah.
Yes. And it can add so much of their own curiosity around, like, so say they did go get the pot, right?
Mm-hmm.
And now they're like wearing it as a hat, or like
Or
putting a scarf or
Yeah.
something, and like whatever urge that is, like the
like
possibilities
ripping
are
paper up and throwing it in there, like whatever,
right? Adding water to it, whatever. Like, the possibilities are so, like, they're literally endless.
endless.
When you look at that pot again in a week from now, you might be reminded of whatever takeaway or whatever glimmer or whatever thing came through.
If you listened all the way to the end, for our Hermione Granger kind of listeners, we encourage you to go grab an item. Wherever you're standing, whatever space you're in, your kitchen, your car, the school lineup, I want you to find an item in your pocket, to the left, to the right, look up and down. Look at that item. What is its weight? What is its color? Does it hold meaning, significance? Is it in relationship with the other items around it? How do you feel when you look at it or when you hold it? What are you noticing in your body as you look at it, hold it, attune to it? And just see how long you can stay present with this item. Notice, just take notice of anything that's happening in your body as you do. And Catherine and I welcome you back to our next episode next week, where we're going to be talking about how the essence of expressive arts therapy is the exact opposite of rigidity, is the exact opposite of all of the shoulds and the stories that we tell ourselves about parenting and motherhood and how we show up in all of it. So we'll see you in the next episode. Extra bonus for all of you still listening. Have you ever wondered to yourself on that Sunday night when you're flipping through your phone, wondering, maybe even berating yourself about how not present you were, and wondering how you're going to be present this week? What if presence felt easy in motherhood? I created an online course for busy moms looking for more presence called Show Up With Love. It is my favorite creative and intuitive tools for how to be more present in parenting. And right now, you can get it for my exclusive pay what you can pricing. head over to the website www.kaylahuszar.com to get exclusive access to the fastest and the easiest ways to being more present as a busy mom without having to sacrifice your to-do list. See you back here next week. Bye.